That was mine. Okay, we have 9 o'clock. And the June 20th meeting of the Charlotte County Airport Authority will come to order. First thing is the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for our airport, and we are blessed with those who work so hard to make it great. We ask you to guide us in our decisions and our discussions today to your will. We are so grateful and thankful for our great county and the citizens that we ultimately serve. We ask you to please keep us safe as we go throughout our day. Thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And if you join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Mr. Thornberry?
Here.
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Carr? Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Hanzig?
Here.
Mrs. Coppola?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is citizens' input. Anyone wishing to address the board during this portion should state your name for the record. Each citizen is allowed up to 2 minutes to express their opinion on agenda items only. See no one coming up to the podium. Next item is additions and deletions.
We have a few, and I apologize for these. I think you got most of them on Monday. Removal of asset. It's a 2019 Ford truck that is in consent. We're trading it in on a new one. FDOT has offered us a grant, which I'll add as item 14D, and a lease for an MRO, which came in. We've been negotiating for a while, was finalized, and that'll be 14E.
14E. Okay. Next item is employee recognition.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Today it is my pleasure to recognize and celebrate a significant milestone for one of our dedicated team members, Glenn Lomas. Glenn has reached the remarkable achievement of 10 years with our organization. Glenn began his career with us in grounds maintenance, demonstrating a strong work ethic and an eye for detail. His dedication and drive quickly became evident, and several years ago he transitioned into his current role as purchasing and CMMS specialist. In this role, Glenn has continually proven himself to be an invaluable asset. His expertise in procurement and his oversight of the management of our computerized maintenance management system have streamlined our operations and contributed significantly to the organization's efficiency and success. Glenn's ability to adapt and excel in different roles within our organization is a testament to his commitment to our mission. Please join me in congratulating Glenn Lomas on his 10-year anniversary.
Mike comes up every month.
Yeah.
So we're starting a new thing. It's called the Employee Recognition Frequent Flyer Club. And Mike Timms is our first member. Mike has recently achieved a significant professional milestone by passing the CCAA Certified Member Exam through self-study. The CCAA Certified Member Exam is known for its rigorous standards and comprehensive evaluation of an individual's knowledge and expertise in airport management and operations. By passing this exam, Mike has demonstrated a high level of proficiency and commitment to excellence in his field. Mike's dedication to professional development and continuous learning is truly commendable. This certification not only reflects his personal drive and hard work, but also brings substantial value to our organization. It enhances our team's capabilities and underscores our commitment to maintaining the highest standards in the industry. Mike's continued success is a testament to his diligence and passion for his work, and we are incredibly proud to have him as a part of our team.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Have one more.
Yeah, we got another one.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I would like to take a time to acknowledge Giorgio Angelino. He's been with us for about a year and a half with Airside, and in the past 3 months, he's been studying for his ACE operations, and in those 3 months, it was a self-study, and he passed it. The ACE is something that we all try to get, to understand the more 139 standards, and 3 months later, he has it. Just want to take the time to say congratulations to Giorgio, and he's our first Airside officer. We've had him probably a year. So,
Impressive.
Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
First and second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay, item next is Secretary Treasurer's report.
I will defer to Mr. Parrish for that.
All right, go to the overview. You'll notice we had some expenses that were a little over budget. I think you'll see those start to level out. We had a large month of maintenance that we did. We had to replumb the bathrooms. We replumbed an entire building. Can you turn the gain down a little on me? And then we had some other one-time expenses that are in the budget. We budget for them, but they all hit in the same month, so don't be alarmed by that. We're still, operating margin was still good for the month, and we're still ahead for the year. So I think the review is still very positive. Next screen. Okay. The accounts receivables, I still continue to fight with one of our larger tenants. Not that they don't want to pay the bill, they don't understand the bill. And I'm headed there on Monday to discuss many things with them, but this is one of the items we intend to resolve while we're there. Before we're working on a few other things with them, Allegiant. And I want to make sure this is resolved before we bring any of those to the board. The others are all paid in full as we sit today, so there's really not a lot out there. And accounts receivables, the income statement continues to be positive as we looked at in the overview. Any specific questions I can answer, but the revenues are continuing to be where we expected, and our expenses for the year continue to be right where we expect. We were down a little in employments last month, and I think you'll start to see that pick up as we move forward. And the balance sheet, we continue to put items onto it, so it continues to go up. I think Jeff will have a little bit to say when he talks about our audit, about our balance sheet as we continue to grow and spend money to improve and maintain the airport. Any specific questions?
Okay, no questions. We'll move on to attorney's report.
Well, liaison.
Oh, liaison reports, excuse me. Board of County Commissioners, that's me. I have nothing to report. Commissioner Deutsch, is there anything you might add?
Good morning. You guys should begin to be experiencing what I'm going to touch upon. But the reality is going over utility projects as we look into the future. we're finding out that inflation has really hitting the county. And projects that were estimated, one of them at $80 million, we're looking at $160 million for the same project. It's really a little scary. And we're looking at methods to do that, because one of the things we're working real hard is to make sure that we're going to have potable water, quality water, and move ahead with our septic to sewer program and that. So it's a big challenge. And Jim, I think you're going to be finding that in some of the responses you have as you're getting, things coming in, because we're really seeing it. Other than that, we're going into the budget cycle. We're busy. We've got more meetings than I can count at. And unless you have some specific questions, that's all I can share.
Thank you.
Brent, have a good day. Nice jacket, Hanson.
Okay, on to go to City Council.
No comment to the last comment, but anyway, I would like to recognize Vice... How about if I put the glasses on, too? You like that? Covers work. I'd like to recognize Vice Mayor Bill Dryberg. He's here this morning, raising his hand. We've been in contact with each other, and there's nothing of any really concern between the Airport Authority and the City of Punta Gorda. Unless, Bill, you have anything to add from yesterday's meeting, or? Okay, thanks for coming.
All right, next item, MPO.
Mr. Chair, a couple of highlights. We just did a final draft approval of the Transportation Improvement Program, Unified Planning Work Program, as well as the 2024 project priorities. I had mentioned in my report to the MPO about the more frequent meetings between FDOT and the airport and the MPO, and also the presentation that Mr. Gammon gave, and that was and shared that link. That was very well received. And the only other item on the MPO, I did attend the training in Tampa, which didn't know what to expect at first, but it was time well spent and very informative, so I was happy to do that. And as far as the EDP goes, there has not been a meeting since our last, the next meeting I believe is in September. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, that concludes my report.
Hearing none, we move on to community.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I really don't have a report because being from a big Irish-Italian family, I went to many weddings and funerals out of town this month. So some was nice and some were not so nice. So next month I'll have a better report. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have the state legislation.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So the governor signed the budget, and we as an airport and as a community made out really well. The airport's projects were safe. We have the 2.75 for the CTC facility for the AMP program that we're so excited about. Our infrastructure for the access road, we got $3.75 million. And the CHS aviation hangar that's going to be located at Charlotte High School did receive the $1.5 million. So I think that we are positioned really well to have a great pipeline of folks entering the aviation industry, and hopefully I think that's going to bode well for our future. So thank you to all of the airport staff who's flown up to Tallahassee and for all their advocacy, and it was a great job all. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there was a lot of Monday afternoon wrangling to get that done, and I want to thank both Mike Grant and Ben Albritton. They were instrumental in getting those across the finish line. Well,
And also, if we can also thank the school board and all the folks there for all of their advocacy regarding this as well. We just have, everybody in Charlotte County was pulling in the same direction, and I think that's why we were so successful. So let's continue those efforts.
And we have already been in contact with the grantors for the CTC. We're getting that in place. Hopefully we can get that started July 1. We are, do you mind if I?
Please.
So we are working with the school board. Probably will have their lease comments back by the end of the week, first of next week. Then we will put that lease in place. The bids have gone out, or we've got the bids back. They were $3 million under budget, so we're in a really good spot there.
Wow.
We're really happy with the bids. We had numerous bidders, 2 or 3 right at the bottom that were very close, so we're confident that it's a good bid. And but we got to get the lease back, sign it, and then get the contract signed by the 23rd of July. So we'll probably have to have an emergency meeting in July to get that finalized. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Next item is the attorney's report.
There you go. Thank you very much. It's good to be back. 2 major things that have happened over the last month. Mr. Hackett has worked extensively with staff and James and also the EDC relative to the MRO lease you're going to be approving today. That was a somewhat significant negotiation between all of them. I oversaw most of it, but deferred to Mr. Hackett in doing that, and James is going to report on that more as that comes up later in your report here today. Probably the biggest problem has been this Chai Pizza, aka Rosati's, that was going to be built here. As you recall, that was a long negotiated lease, which I had some trepidation about the way it was being done. So we had some pretty quick triggers and a lot of oversight in that document. In the course of that, remember there was a $700,000 allotment for a build out that was a reimbursement schedule. So he built it and we reimbursed them. Through the course of that, Mr. White was overseeing that, and he became suspicious of some of the bills that were being given to him, which led to him discussing that with was it Mr. Jason Lupini? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Lupa. In any event, that discussion quickly devolved. As a result, Mr. White asked Mr. Parrish and I to get engaged with that. Our immediate suggestion was that neither of us are accountants, that we get an independent audit completed so that we understood, and it was not necessarily now a personality issue between Mr. White or anybody else and Mr. LaPella. It was just an independent audit. I don't know if Tony's here or not, but as you know, Tony's about the most non-threatening person in the world. So we put him in that, and again, we got no cooperation from Mr. LaPella. As a result, we determined that there was 2 methodologies for terminating the contract. One was just for cause, which we had that trigger built in. There was another 30-day right to cure. My counsel to the airport was that we undergo a 30-day right to cure, letting him, again, giving him the opportunity to try and cure the problems and the accounting. Unfortunately, one of the documents that we looked at, it was obvious that it had been blatantly modified, and poorly, I might add. I mean, even in the world of AI, it had just been poorly modified. Well, that's one of those things that if you see that one small item, it leads you to concerns about the bigger items. Some of the bigger invoices could not be traced to a particular entity, so it would just say ABC Company, no address, no nothing. So we got limited cooperation there. Mr. LaPella retained legal counsel, communicated with me. He told me if I didn't communicate with him, he'd talk to my lawyer on Monday. I told him I'd wait. I waited for his lawyer. His lawyer got to me. We were going to do an amicable termination, but then he requested that we fund some of the bills, which I said we would not until we had a full accounting. After that, he fired his lawyer, and we haven't heard anything from him since. I sent a formal termination letter to him, and that document, the lease is now fully terminated, or the license is now fully terminated. The good news in all that, thanks to Mr. White's astuteness in our stopping the project to do an accounting, is we think we're about even relative to the money that we've spent and the product and the development that we have there. So it's sort of maybe a little bit no harm, no foul associated with that process. The better thing is, of course, that we caught it early, and we are in the position now to look to resume the process. I'm going to let James and or Kaylee, whoever's working that, there is some significant sunrise on that in the sense that we may be able to resurrect this with Rosati corporate, and I'll let James speak to that. The only issue that we have remaining under the license is if we determine that we are about even relative to what we got and what we paid for, is whether or not we wanted to sue for any sort of accounting and or additional damages. At this point, I believe the determination is probably not, but to the extent that we decide to do that, we'll come back to you before we initiate that litigation.
To that, I'll now defer to James relative to what I'd say the bright side of this.
Sure, thanks. We were contacted by Rosati's corporate, basically to find out about the project and then apologize from their side. They are bringing next week 2 other franchisees to view the project. They want to continue and get this up as a Rosati's. They don't want a black eye, and they love Southwest Florida. So I think we'll be able to move forward. They understand what we want, they understand what we need, and they want to get it done. So we're excited about that. It's encouraging that Rosati's, Andy Rosati called us and said, I want to talk, I want to get this taken care of. So.
Where's their home office?
Chicago.
Apparently, Mr. Capella also closed down one of his other Rosati's down in Fort Myers, is what we determined. So he's got issues much bigger than ours.
Yeah, he is no longer a franchisee with them.
Wow.
That it, sir?
I believe those are the only 2 major factors. Obviously, there's any number of smaller things that develop every day with the airport, which we handle as expeditiously as we possibly can.
Okay, next item is CEO's report. Mr. Parrish.
Go to the development update. You guys have had this, so you're kind of familiar with what's going on. Building 97 replacement. That's on the board approval today. That's the AirTrack main hangar that'll be coming down once they move into the building across the street from them, which is in late design and going in for permitting. We are in final negotiations on the FBO hangar and a second hangar next to it. The perimeter road, golf course, Challenger, all of those are kind of on hold. We're looking at a land option, which I'll bring to you guys at the development update in August to talk about, and then we can move forward with that if you want to. Taxiway Alpha reconstruction, we're in design on that. That'll be a next year project, and the master drainage plan update continues on. Bidding, CTC, we did bid that and have the bids back. Well, hopefully we can get that on the agenda for an emergency meeting in July once we get the lease settled. The commercial terminal expansion is moving forward. We made some determinations on some things. We'll be bringing some good graphics and stuff to the board in August to look at. We have been working with our current vendor for news, gifts, and food, and we're looking at putting in a nationally recognized restaurant, 2 of them in the terminal.
Wow.
So we're excited about that. And then the new ARF truck is ready to sign a contract as soon as we get grants, and we should have grants any time now. They have to have them before the end of the year, so in the fiscal year. In construction, and this is what's driving everybody crazy, all the construction going on, the inline baggage system, we should be pouring footers on that, which will make that project actually look like it's going somewhere. Right now it just looks like a hole in the ground. The maintenance operations building, which is the new building right across the street, steel's going up, airfield lighting control, someday we'll take that off. I think it's being final tested, and it's finally in. That is something that, it's been a year and a half that we've been waiting on parts for that. And that's the new one where parts are available. The old one, parts weren't available, and seem to keep that going longer. Rental car facility, we signed the contract on that, and they are starting the design, the final design, so they can get permits. 207, the fuel farm, that is actually, they did surveying. I think they'll start grading for the fuel farm road improvements, the GSE maintenance building, they should start. They're getting permits on that.
We're in
Delegated design. Delegated design, we give them what we want, and then they, as the metal building manufacturer, have to put it together and do the engineering, and then they'll get that permitted. And the Building 101 replacement is also in delegated design.
I have a question, James.
Sure.
On the new FBO hangar, is that the one that you eliminated the lean-to for the offices on.
Yeah.
I'd like to readdress that at our August meeting.
Well, all right, okay.
And the only reason I'm saying it is, I think the elimination of the lean-to compromises the marketing ability of the building.
So for what we're marketing it for, I agree if we were going to lease it. That is going to be an itinerant building, so we don't need offices. Now, we're also talking about building another one next to it that would have offices. Keep in mind, we're eliminating the construction, not the ability to construct. We're still going to have the firewall, so we can add it in the future.
You can add on to it. Yeah, I just, a box hanger without the adjacent offices or maintenance space is a little...
But if it's an itinerant hangar...
Yeah, I understand.
You
that's so you can park your jet in.
Yes. Yeah. So marketing update. Is Kaylee on? No? Okay. I'm going to let you guys read the marketing update because none of this makes any sense to me. We get a lot of clicks, a lot of stuff. That's great. She's done a lot of good work. She also went skiing and hurt her knee and has had surgery, so hopefully she'll be back next month. If she's watching on YouTube. Hi, Kaylee. She's one of the 4 people watching on YouTube.
Obviously, the highlights of Best Airport.
Yeah, so I don't know who puts these things up. We're definitely the best airport in Charlotte County. We've won that award multiple times since I've been here. But no, I mean, we get a lot of good press, and I don't know where some of these things come from. Midwest Magazine named us the best airport, so.
Wasn't there a sign on 75 years ago relating to that?
Yeah, so we're excited about any press we get that's positive. So I have a couple of other things. The aviation report, why don't you go ahead and give that, and then I have a few other add-ons that I'd like to talk about real fast.
Aviation report.
Sure, good morning.
Good morning.
So we continue to be busy. We had a really good month of May for total ops. We had really good weather. So operations were up over 11,000 for a single month. As James indicated, passenger traffic was down a little bit, about 5,000 passengers for the month of May, but we're still having a pretty good year with airline traffic and passenger count. Avgas sold out of the truck. It continues to just be a really good seller. So those gallons are up close to 12,000 gallons for a single month. As you can see by the graph, it really did, it almost doubled from the 2 previous years' month of May. Avgas sold to self-serve. We continue to do really well with that as well, and soon we'll have a second self-serve on the airport, so that expect to see those numbers even higher once that island goes in. Jet was down a little bit for the month, and but it's typical for a month of May. And airlines pumped was just under 1 million gallons. So we had a really good month of May for fuel sales and operations for the airport. Thank you.
All right, I've got, well, I was going to discuss Rosati's. We got that out of the way. After the hurricane, we were approached by Florida Department of Emergency Management and FEMA to house trailers, not for people to live in, but to be a site that they could bring them in, get them ready to go out and set them up. Florida Department of Emergency Management's lease is up this month, and they are currently moving. FEMA has a 6-month extension that they did take that option. They'll be here for 6 more months, and then they're gone. I got a violation letter from the county, and I've been trying to work this out with administration. I'm not getting anywhere. We've been given 30 days to kick FEMA off the site. That's not going to happen. So we may end up having to give this to our attorney and have him settle it. I've been working with the county administrator. Yes. Is it a zoning, is it not allowed under zoning? I think yes, but this was not a typical situation. We were asked by FEMA, we were asked by the county to help as much as possible, and we always do. To get something that says, you know, our violation is we're storing junk on the property and abandoned vehicles is frustrating. And so I'm working on that. We'll get through it. But, you know, we talk about cooperation in the county, and I agree, we get a lot. This came from a staffer. It didn't go up the chain before it was sent to us, and I'm a little disappointed in it. But we'll move forward on that. Just want to let you know that we're dealing with that. Questions?
No questions. Okay, let's get into new business, audit presentation. Good morning.
We'll bring up Mr. Tuscan for his annual exciting audit report.
Is this nap time?
I was thinking of a drum roll.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Keeps getting...
It's always interesting to hear the intro of the audit. Every client, I joke, it's like yelling fire. Usually the room clears out, but there must be something important coming up. Before you, you have two documents, the audit and a set of graphs. You also have a thin book there as well, and that's your PFC audit report. We're required to complete that on the same time frame as your audit. The difficulty in trying to tie those two together, if you look at that PFC report at the bottom, there's a schedule in the middle, and there's a little reconciliation at the bottom. Interesting, if you're familiar with accounting terms, accrual basis is what your audit has to be done on. That means accounts payable, accounts receivable. The PFC report has to be done on a cash basis, which is cash in, cash out. And so there's this little reconciliation at the bottom to try to link the two together. It's not really required, but I find it really confusing if you don't try to do that, because people, first thing they say is, hey, these two numbers don't tie. Agree. So as far as the audit goes, we completed it. It has to be submitted to the state by June 30. You will make that deadline. It's quite a process in submitting the audit. Paper copy has to be submitted to a couple different departments. An electronic copy has to be submitted to multiple departments. And then a whole electronic form has to be completed and submitted. All those things are ready to go. We're required to log on to different websites with your staff and both certify it at the same time, and all those things will occur. So you will be timely. Right past the table of contents, the only thing we're going to look at in this audit is the opinion. Right past the table of contents, you'll see letterhead, and the second paragraph down, second sentence, you see where I have highlighted, basically says that the words present fairly in all material respects. Those are the key words to an unmodified opinion, or called a clean opinion. So very positive. For those of you that have been involved for a while, we met with management earlier this morning, and this report used to be about 16 pages long when I first started doing government audits, and they keep increasing and changing the standards, both on the state side and on the Fed side. So it's huge now. So it's a ton of work. Besides your growth and all the new standards, requires a ton of time, audit and staff-wise. So we appreciate all the help from the staff. We are able to get it done timely, and you certainly don't want to be on the late filers list. So very happy about that. Okay, so let's just flip over. I'm just going to highlight a couple things on these graphs. These graphs are not required. It's something we do. We think it's a lot easier than me asking you to flip through 100 pages of audit. But as we transition over here to the graphs, and they're up on the screens as well, and there's copies in the back, and if you would like that. There is a section of the audit called the MD&A, Management's Discussion and Analysis. It's right past the opinion, so it's right up front. And your staff here does a great job of putting some ancillary facts, some of the things actually that the different reports talked about prior to me coming up. So it has the accounting numbers in there. The unique thing about this requirement is it's not allowed to use accounting terminology. It has to be written in layman terms, and it compares this year versus last. And so it gives you a really nice summary of what happened last year, and then the additional info that staff puts in there. So if you're ever out in the public talking, that's a great little handout or an area where you can excerpt pieces and grab some good pertinent information without flipping through 100 pages of audit. So looking at these graphs, I'm just going to touch on a couple highlights for the year. The airport had, as your staff mentioned, in 24 you're having a successful year. 23 was successful as well. Remember, I'm reporting on 23. Your staff's bringing you up to date on 24, and like the county commissioner said, you're almost going into budget talks for 25. So it gets a little confusing sometimes as to what year you're talking about. But 23 finished, you can see on this graph, with about 45 million, a little over 45 million in cash. And something I always try to do is put those numbers in perspective. And so that's why we do these graphs, so you can see 5 years ago where you were as far as cash goes. And some of the audience and staff have been here since the Charlie days. And just as a point of reference, back in Charlie, happened in August, you know, government special district year ends are September 30 in Florida. So September 30 of that year, you had $677,000 in cash. So that's the growth from '04 to now. Working your way down this graph, there's a couple new standards that came into being over the last couple years. And about 3/4 of the way down, you're going to see lease receivables and PPP receivable. PPP during COVID meant a loan program from the Fed. Now it's a different standard, and that's the terminology for it. Basically, public-private partnership. And basically, we were required this year to dollarize your contracts on what they call concessions. And so that's your rental cars and the different contracts you have like that. So we have to take the contract in place, dollarize it out, and record it now. So that helped make your finance statement even thicker this year. But going down here, the big other changes are those standards, and the grants receivable change there was purely timing. The next page here, capital assets. The capital assets you can see again on this, the 5 years shown. Let me click that.
I did.
The 5 years shown here, you can see it doubled from 64 million to 126. The change column, the increase-decrease column, you put about 26 million last year into construction in progress projects. And so, as Mr. Parrish mentioned earlier, you're certainly improving and repairing. The next page are your current liabilities. Basically, that means the things that were due at year end and not paid. Typical in any business, there's always bills that come in at the end of the year, and then certain things you accrue. And you can see that most of those are pretty consistent between years. Accounts payable was down a bit, and that was purely just timing on the construction projects. Your long-term liabilities, this one shows a significant factor here that you can see that this year you paid off your SIB loan, State Infrastructure Bank loan, and you can see technically you're debt-free at the end of the year. So cash was up at around $45 million, and you're essentially debt-free. Interesting enough, about 20 years ago, most of those items on this graph weren't a standard that had to be reported. And so these, except for compensated absence, basically vacation and sick time that people have earned and haven't taken, that one's always been a requirement. But all these other loans or other items up there, liabilities, are new standards that have come about over the last several years. People asked in the management meeting, what is that pension liability? This government is part of the state retirement plan. Several years ago, they changed the law and said that the participating governments had to now record their share of the state's liability for that pension. So what that meant was, state's year ends June 30. So as soon as they hit June 30, the Auditor General, the state has an Auditor General's office, they audit the FRS, and they have an actuary that gets involved, and then they project out the future liability for the FRS plan. And then they have to break that down by all the participating governments. So we get that data usually from the state somewhere in February. And so all governments in Florida have to have their audits in by June 30. So all those participating FRS governments, you do your audit, then you sit there and wait. I mean, we were actually out here in January doing this audit. So we did a ton of work, and then you sit here and wait for that data, and then it's a race to the finish. So that's your share. The one interesting thing is you can see that it varies over the years, and in 21, the liability was way down. And the question was, well, why does it bounce around like this? It bounces around for various factors, but the biggest two factors are, if your staff grows, then you've got a bigger liability. If your staff gets younger as an age base, then they have to project out farther years, so your liability is bigger. But the biggest factor is the investment return. So in 20, COVID was raging at June 30. The stock market was down, the liability was up. In 21, the stock market came roaring back. FRS had a 33% rate of return that year. The liability was down, investments were up. The next graph shows your net position. Basically what this is assets minus liability. It's had several terms over time, equity, fund balance, all these different terms, net worth. So you can see at the end of the 23 fiscal year, you had a net worth of just about $170 million. Interesting, after Charlie, your fund balance was $365,000. And so it's massively changed. And you can see the change at the bottom right-hand corner, that's net income for the year, was about $18 million. So the authority has had a goal for a long time to build reserves to an adequate level that if state and federal funding wasn't available, you'd have adequate reserves on site to be able to continue to operate, improve, maintain. So the goal was about $15 million. This morning we were discussing this, and really the goal now is probably somewhere around $30 million because the cost of things have changed so much over time. This just gives you a history of your net income over the years, and a couple markers if you want to throw in. There's about 4 or 5 graphs here that show, I always put '04 on these graphs because that was the hurricane year, and that most people know the airport was just devastated in the area. But you've had significant things happen since then. In '08, airline service started, and then 20, COVID, and those kind of changes. And so it gives you a chance there to see how those different events affected your operations. But graph 7, I think, is really important. If you flip over to page 7, and you look at the green column, the one in the middle, I was recounting with management this morning that after the hurricane, the issue was the airport had to look ahead and determine how it was going to be self-sustaining in the future because so much of the infrastructure was destroyed. And so a plan was put in place, and if you look at that green column, basically what this tells you is you've got operating income, operating expenses. Okay, how did operations turn out? In '08, you can see if you look, draw a line across there, net income started inching up. It started turning positive. That's when airline revenue started coming in, airline service. And you can see the different facilities you've built and different projects that you've put in place besides the airline have helped build that to a sustainable level. So very positive there. The rest of the graphs just give you a history on the different aspects. But one thing I wanted to show you is on page 11, the last graph. This gives you an idea of different funding sources. Contributed capital basically means capital grants that comes in. And the red column are generally operating grants or grants not necessarily pointed or limited to capital. And you can see that the airport has been very successful after Charlie, and then throughout all the years, especially currently, obtaining different grants, and you've heard that mentioned multiple times throughout your meeting so far. So all those things are positive. This year was very positive audit result year, as has been, as well as audit results and financial position of the authority. Are there any questions I can answer? I was told you didn't want me to read the whole 100 pages.
Well, I came in early to read it.
Oh, okay.
No. On the compensated absences and liability funding on the pension plan, do we actually fund that, or do we just recognize it as a liability?
Right. One of us is ringing here. I'm standing back a bit.
So,
you don't have to fund it. In fact, you cannot pay off the liability to the state. I mean, in '21 would have been the perfect year to pay it off.
Sure.
But they wouldn't accept it, and the Fed doesn't require you to fund it. You're just required to record it. The one item that potentially would have to be funded was, all this compensated time.
Right.
But you have adequate reserves. Back when your reserves were small, we had recommended that they set aside a portion of the reserves for that, but you guys have been successful in building that, so it's not really a requirement.
And the audit report, and I guess this will meet the DOT-FAA requirement.
This is single audit.
The single audit, so we're okay there.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing, just for those that are in the audience and those that are watching, I think we ought to explain what the PFC is. We talk about the PFC, so where it comes, so people understand it's not a tax.
Right.
From us.
Don't ask the Republicans that. No, the PFC is a charge on every ticket to use the facility. So it's a $4.50 fee that's attached to the ticket price, and we get about $4.30 of it. The airline gets a little for processing it. And that hasn't gone up in 20 years, 24 years. It's been a long time, and it doesn't look like it's moving anywhere.
Is that the same at every airport? Is it the same for every?
About 90% of the airports, yes.
It's on the first two.
But yeah, but you can only pay it twice on one ticket. So if you go from here to Atlanta, I didn't say that, and then to another airport, and then to your final destination, you only pay twice. So.
And the airline collects it and submits it back to
Yeah.
us. And it's for capital improvements, basically.
So every couple of years, we have to do a new application. We have to tell them what we're going to spend our money on. They have to approve how we spend our money, and it's a fun process.
With regards to the airport you're going to, it's always the same number except for one or two airports? I'm just curious.
It can be up to 450. So some are 4, some are 3, some are, but up to 450.
So just to tag on to that, a lot of your capital projects, let's say it's $1 million. If you have a federal grant, a lot of them pay a percentage, and you're able to use PFCs sometimes to make up the local portion, because it'll be maybe partly fed, partly state, partly local. And PFC is one of the funding mechanisms for that, but it's capital related, as was mentioned. You made another good point about the single audit. So in those two reports, the thick one and the little PFC report, you've met the Fed and the state requirement for your overall government audit. You met the Fed and the state requirement for the single audit or the grant audit, and then you have the audit requirement for the PFCs.
Okay.
They all have to be in by June 30, so we'll make those deadlines.
And we pay the same amount of fee for this one as we did for the 16-page report?
No. No.
It's a good report. It's good.
I'm just trying to envision how much money Hartsville would make.
Oh, it's a lot. Hartsfield hits 1 million passengers a day, multiple times a
I
year.
just started visualizing how much money that is at a major airport. That's why I was asking, is it the same regardless of where you're going?
Yes. So we,
It's at the in-payment, not the depayment?
yeah.
So it's where the in-payment happens.
Yeah.
So we need to approve the audit, and then Kelly will get signatures at the end of the meeting, and then he will bind it, and if he gets his letterhead in time.
It'll be done. I normally stay for the whole meeting. I apologize, I have another commitment, but Kelly will get your signatures and we'll be timely. I appreciate it. Great seeing you all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Excellent.
Okay, I guess we need
We need a motion and a
motion
second.
to approve the audit.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the audit report.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay.
Thank you. Always exciting to have Jeff in the building.
Well, he makes everything understandable.
Yeah, you guys hired an engineer. We love auditors. Next item on new business is the Building 97 replacement contract with Crawford, Murray, and Tilly. We went out, had a selection. They were selected, and we've negotiated a price to design the new building. This is the old this is the current Air Track building. This is a building that was damaged heavily in Charley, again in this hurricane, and just cannot be effectively rebuilt. There's too much structural damage, and we just hope we don't have another storm before we tear it down. Contract amounts $344,145. That is covered by insurance proceeds that will cover the cost of the demolition and reconstruction of the building.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve a contract with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly for architectural and engineering services for replacement of Building 97 in the amount of $344,145.
Second.
I I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the next item.
Taxiway, it used to be AC, DC, but now we're just CD. Alpha's next year. The project got bigger than we expected because of the geotech reports determined that we were going to have to do a total reconstruction. So if we could go to the picture on the next slide, just so everyone understands what we're doing. Taxiway Charlie was rehabbed in 2005, 2006. So it is at the end of its useful life. But because of the increase in traffic, we're doing a complete rebuild. So we're going all the way down to the sub-base, coming back up with new base, new asphalt. Anytime you touch a piece of pavement, you have to bring it up to the current design standards, which is the little 90-degree, or the turn at the end that puts it at a 90-degree crossing of 1533. So we bid two alternates. One was a direct connect, which is also no longer allowed under the design standards, but because of pricing, they were concerned that they wouldn't be able to fund the alternate, which is the gray area, which is a bypass, so that a plane can't go directly from the ramp to the taxiway connecting to a runway. They have to make multiple turns. So we bid it with the base bid 1 and 2, and then the alternate, which is part of the base bid and the bypass. Because the bids came in pretty low compared to what we were looking at, the FAA is trying to fund bid alternate 1 and base bid 1. If we had built base bid 2, and it is about half the price of the alternate, that would all be throwaway. All that money would be torn out in a few years. So that just drives me insane as a taxpayer to spend that kind of money to tear it up in a few years. So we are fortunate the bids came in pretty good, and we hope to have a grant in place shortly. They should have it by the end of the year. This is 90% discretionary, 5% FDOT, and PFCs cover the other 5%, and it will be a contract to Dickerson. So we'd like to get approval for me to execute the grant and sign the contract once the grant is in place for not to exceed $15,201,721.10.
And James, can you explain that 15 million, which of these two columns are you adding?
So that's taxiway C and the bypass. So it's the 6 million and the 8 million.
So you're going to be doing red, blue, and gray?
With the exception of the lighter blue.
Yeah, between the gray and the ramp.
Yes.
You think the feds are going to go with the gray?
Right now, that's what they have indicated.
And then eventually you'll take the gray and go to both ends?
It will at least extend to taxiway Foxtrot and down further.
Gotcha. Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the CEO to execute a grant upon receipt following execution of the construction document with Dickerson Infrastructure in an amount not to exceed $15,201,721.10.
I'll second.
First and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
So this came in, we had a meeting last week with the Undersecretary for the DOT, and I don't know if that had any influence on this, but right after we met with her, we received this grant addition. This is additional funding, and I'm going to ask you to tell me what the actual numbers are. I think currently The inline baggage system project, the total project cost is $23 million. The TSA's in it for a little over 12. FDOT now is in it for 3.
Correct. Our current grant with the FDOT is for $300,000. That was our starter grant to get us going. This is an amendment for 2.75 that was always plugged, and it just finally come in.
Yeah, so this will get us up to 3 million, and then PFC is paying the rest. We do have a SIS grant, so State Infrastructure System request in. No, this is not the one, this is another grant program. But we get people who've been around for a while know we were not included in the original SIS airports. We're the only commercial airport in the state that was not. We did, through some tough negotiations with the DOT and the legislature, get ourselves included in that, so now we can get money. That pays for things that aren't generally covered by normal DOT loans as well as FAA, or normal DOT grants as well as FAA. So things like the new access to RSWs, $53 million SIS loan or SIS grant. So we have an application in for that, but this will probably not be the last FDOT chunk of money, and then the rest is already included in our PFC application. So I need a board to accept the PTGA of $2.75 million and adopt the resolution 2407 and allow me to execute them.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board accept the FDOT Public Transportation Grant and adopt Resolution 2024-07 and permit the CEO to execute the FDOT Public Transportation Grant Agreement Amendment as presented.
I'll second.
First and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
The last item is a lease we've been working on for a few months. I'm really excited to get a lease to you. So I know some people asked where it was. There's the overall location on the airport. If we can zoom into the next picture, kind of shows where it's going to sit in the general aviation area off of Taxiway Gulf, which is the new taxiway that was just opened a few months ago. And that road that we're building that was part of the infrastructure grant is the road that will lead into that and also service the other hangars on the east, and then on the west side of the road, the north side of the second phase of that road. So we'll be working with the MRO to come up with final designs. So this is currently what we plugged into the lease, and once they figure out exactly what they want, we'll have an amendment or an addendum to the lease which gives them the exact size once it's surveyed.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions.
Certainly, and the leases are here. If you have any specific questions, they may be able to answer them better than me.
Just, for those that are here and viewing, MRO is a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility. That's what that stands for. And the current company, from what I can understand, maybe you can help me with this is your first endeavor with a hangar so you can take a whole aircraft. Am I correct? Because right now you're operating, basically, as I understand their operation, they do components. They'll take a part of an airplane and overhaul it, and then they send it back and they put it back in the airplane. But now you're expanding your business, as I understand it, for a hangar that will will encompass up to two wide bodies. Two, what do you call them?
Narrow bodies.
Single aisle aircraft. Up to Airbuses, and the size of the hangar is going to be a pretty big structure. It's going to be, I'm guessing, 250 at least by 150, something like that. We haven't seen a design. And it looks pretty good, and the lease is really good. I think it's benefits both sides from what I read, and it's a heck of an addition to the airport. How about James, the access from that building for the heavier aircraft to the airfield, the runway system?
So that is one of the reasons we fought to get Taxiway Gulf to ADG3 standards. If you remember, the master plan had it as an ADG2 taxiway, but it was built to ADG3, so we should have no issues.
Yeah, that thing's what, 50 foot wide?
50 foot wide.
You want to hear from the owners, or they're here?
You guys want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to do and what your time frame is?
They're you guys are over in Miami, I guess, aren't you, somewhere around there?
Right up there.
Yeah. I recognize your picture off your website.
I was younger. Good morning. My name is Nestor Camacho. I'm the Director of Operation at SMRO. Is 100% family owned. I'm an A&P mechanic. I'm an ex-Eastern Airline and a case auditor. The case auditor is in the aviation industry. We go and we audit other companies. So I've been involved in the auditing and construction of maintenance facility. Last company that I was auditing was in Jacksonville, Flystar. We have 2 repair stations. Basically, what you mentioned before, what we do is we receive the parts, we fix a part, and then we send it to the MRO where they install it in the aircraft. It has been our goal that for us to do C and D checks, because then we will be self-sufficient. We don't depend from other MROs to send work to NAS. We're gonna be creating our own work for the 2 repair stations that we own. This brings to the airlines a good business, because when you bring an aircraft to an MRO, you always have the cost of sending the parts to other facilities. We've been repairing from 80 to 80% of the parts in the aircraft, since we have capability of airframe, which means the whole structure of the aircraft. We have power plant, and we have avionics and accessory, including landing gears. So we're going to be covering almost 80%, 85% of the aircraft maintenance. This is bringing attention to any airlines, because the saving going to be right there for them. For us, one of the things that really moved me to make the decision here in Punta Gorda is the aviation school that you have. For us, it's going to be more easier to get people that already been trained and not going through what we have in Miami right now, that we're becoming basically in a school. It's so hard to get an A&P mechanic today that we have to hire technicians, but we have to train them. Here we have a school that for us is going to be very easy to pick from them. We're very excited to be here and to have the MRO here in the States, since both our repair stations are in the States.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I've talked about it. I may not loudly very much, but I always wanted to see an MRO here. I'm an AMP as well, so I understand a little bit about what you're doing.
So when you retire from the board, you can
Yeah,
walk across the...
and I went to avionics school, and I have an FCC license.
I hate it.
I'm outdated, though.
But I'm a baker. I graduated in 1985 at Justy Baker. And I've been in aviation since I was 16 years old.
Well, I started in the Air Force in '72, and I flew with, I don't know if you've ever heard of ATA Airlines?
Yes.
I worked for them for 15 years.
Back in the days.
I was a flight engineer on the L-1011 and 727s.
Well, at Eastern, I was a mechanic on the L-1011. I think that the one that you had was an ex-Eastern clearance.
I believe you're correct.
Now, we are discussing here and revealing our age.
I read about it in a history book, actually.
Me too. But I'm very happy if you approve it. We are very, very, very excited to be part of the town.
I'm really going to date myself. I was a flight engineer on a DC-6.
A real plane.
Yeah. So, if I had $1 for every cylinder change I did, I'd be pretty wealthy.
Reading the history about the Connie too, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was not old enough to see the Connie.
Yeah, it's a beautiful airplane.
So...
I move to approve the cities as presented.
I second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Now we're down to public comments. Anyone wishing to address the board during this portion, state their name for the record. Each citizen is allowed up to 2 minutes to express their opinion. Seeing none, this meeting is...
Commissioner comments?
Oh, commissioner comments, man, I'm ready to get out of here.
I'm ready too. You can handle that
Okay,
out.
commissioner comments.
For me, just thank you as always, but also Air Show will be here before we know it. I trust that the plans are coming together as best as possible. I just want to throw it out there that there's any way, shape, or form that we can accommodate some type of parking for volunteers and or VIPs within the airside. Anything that we can do to help accommodate that to improve from last year, I'm all for it. So, and it'll be here before we know it. So I know there's a lot of emails going out for ticket sales, and I think it's going to be another great show. So, thank you.
Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to welcome our new friends at NAS. We're so excited to have you here. This is something that truly, it's exactly what we hoped would happen. If you build it, they will come. So if you build this CTC Aviation School, this is what we wanted to see happen, is that pipeline of our students being able to graduate here from the CTC with their certifications and be able to work right here in Punta Gorda. So this is fantastic, and we're so happy to have you here. And thank you to staff and CTC and the EDP and the EDO and Charlotte County and everyone who worked so hard to make this happen. This is amazing. So thank you.
Commissioner Hanson.
Well, I said enough, and I have no epistle this month, so...
And I just want to echo Commissioner Oliver's comments. Excellent. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing us. We're getting better and better. Thank you, Mr. Parrish, for that, too.
You want to say something?
I just want to remind the board that we do not have a regularly scheduled board meeting in July. That's our off month. We will most likely have an emergency meeting for the lease and the contract for the CTC hangar.
When do you think that meeting will be?
As soon as the attorneys finish their negotiations on the lease and we get a verbal from the school board that they're going to approve it at their July 24th meeting.
Got it. Okay.
But we're waiting on their legal counsel.
Their legal counsel, not our legal
Let's get
counsel.
that. And any further, I'd like to echo Commissioner Oliver's comments also. I'm very happy an MRO is coming to the airport. I've always kind of wanted to see that. It's a good thing. I have no further comments. This meeting is adjourned.